What's up, allies? I'm back with you here in the alley, and we're going to be doing an unboxing and a review today, and we're going to be looking at NECA's Sesame Street, and we're going to start with Ernie. Alright gang, we're here for an unboxing, and I think this is going to be something everyone's going to enjoy and certainly remember, which is Ernie from Sesame Street. This is from NECA, and it's part of their Sesame Street line of characters that they're doing. And these really are great. This is actually the second one I have purchased. The first one is actually Bert, which I'm going to bring on screen a little bit while later to compare it to Ernie. But that one I've already unboxed, and so I wanted to do an unboxing, and we're going to be taking a look at this guy today. So we're going to start by taking a look at the box here. And what's interesting about this box, and some of you may recognize this and some of you won't, is that it's based on a series of books that came out along about the late 70s, early 80s. I believe it was called like the Sesame Street. It wasn't an encyclopedia. It was some sort of other thing that they were doing, but it was a series of X number of books. I'll try to put an image of it here if I can find one online during the editing process. And that's what they've based the boxes on, which is really, really cool. They've got this beautiful spine and image on either side of Ernie standing on a block. And then if you look at the back, you have a series of photos here that demonstrate Ernie on Sesame Street doing various Ernie-like things, I guess you could say. But of course, it's the action figure rather than the actual puppets from the show. If you open this, then there is a small Velcro enclosure here, and on one side you get an image of the figure with a background there to make him look like he's on Sesame Street. And then over here you actually have the figure itself, which, pardon me here, I'm trying to lower that so we don't have the lights there. I've got the studio lights on, so sometimes it's difficult to see. But as you can see, he comes with a bunch of different features and accessories and everything. And he looks really, really nice. It's a beautiful box, and it's great for display. For those of you that are boxed collectors, I think this is one of the nicer boxes I've seen in recent memories, just for display purposes and how it displays. You can certainly put it on a shelf like this. You can put it on a shelf like this. It really does capture that essence of that book series I'm talking about, and they did a really, really nice job. As a sidebar here, I think it's important to note you can tell the age range that they're aiming this collection at based on the books and when they came from. As I said, it was somewhere between, I believe, about 78 and 83 that these books came out. I do remember them from childhood. But I think if much beyond that, most people wouldn't remember them at all. So it's a neat little throwback to that time period. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take them out of the box, and we're going to take a good look at them. All right, so we've got Ernie out of the box here. One thing I want to point out, I mentioned the backdrop. It is the identical backdrop in this one as it was in Bert's box. I'm not sure how effective that is. I think I would have preferred each of them have their own backdrop, just simply because if you wanted to display them individually as opposed to a group, you could do that. But that's just me and my little thought there. We'll start by going over the accessories on this guy. First of all, you get 4 extra hands. The hands that he comes with on are sort of these gesticulating hands, if you will. It's sort of open and sort of there. He has the other hands. He has basically, well, he's got sort of this pointing hand, I guess you could call it, sort of half pointing on each hand, and then he's got this gripping hand that you can put on either side. But a special note, the connectors on these hands, and I don't know if all of NECA's products are like this. This is actually some of the first NECA stuff I've ever purchased. But they are very, very similar to the ones on the Masters of the Universe figures. And I have tried, and lo and behold, Masters of the Universe figures, the hands and such, will interchange with these guys. So you could do some pretty crazy things if you chose to. Other things he has here, he has this lovely photo of he and Bert that is framed. And what's interesting, it actually has the ability to hang this guy. So if you wanted to put it on something and hang it up, you could. Now, point of fact on this, it's definitely a sticker that creates this, and mine is, well, yeah, this was not particularly well applied, I have to be honest. It's sort of not actually the right size, and it wasn't really put down correctly. I'm kind of running my fingernail along here to make sure these are, this application is stuck down. Let me try a finger here and see if I can get that corner in there. Yeah, there we go. So you may have to take a look at that on yours if you take it out of the box. Make sure that that's stuck down, because I have a feeling if you don't have it stuck down properly, you're running the risk of that thing picking up after a certain period of time and actually coming off. So NECA, just be mindful of that. Little quality control would be nice there. We also have a second head. He comes with one where his mouth is closed. You can do the mouth open so that he's got a sort of a smiling expression, if you will. I don't know if I mentioned the rubber ducky yet, but there he is. He looks less like a rubber ducky and more like I don't know what to say there, but it's definitely supposed to be the rubber ducky. And one of the things that comes with all of these, at least in the first wave, and I think they're going to do it in the second wave as well, they come with these animated letters, and the first 4 in the wave, of course, will spell out NECA. Here's the A from Bert. So now we have the C and the A so far. Okay, so now let's take a look at the figure himself. And a couple things I really love about this. First of all, they have great texture on this plastic. If you look at the way the arms and the legs are here, the torso, you definitely get the texture of the fabric on there. And that texture differs from, say, the body of the shirt versus the collar and the cuffs and the base, which is really, really nice. And again, it changes again with the denim. The shoes, I love how they're filthy and they look dirty and lived in. Just a really, really beautiful look. There's the head and the face. I think the sculpts on these faces are excellent. It's definitely, there's no question, you've got Ernie here. As far as articulation goes, the head is on a ball joint. You can get, well, you sort of get a little, just the slightest bit up. It doesn't really want to hold. You get a little bit down, but not much. Side to side, it'll swivel all around, and we can sort of do a confused dog look if you want to. That's about it. Shout out to Bobby Skullface for borrowing that. We have the arms here. They will come out to approximately 90 degrees. And they will go all the way around. The elbows are really tight, but you can get, well, not quite 90 degrees. It's pretty close. And does this give you a bicep swivel? Yes, it sure does. At the elbow, you can get a bicep swivel as well if you want. Wrist swivels, and you get some out, you get some in. No up and down, so you can't by the power of Grayskull or anything, but you do have some reasonable mobility in that wrist. No ab crunch. Is there an ab crunch? Well, I'll be darned. There is an ab crunch. You do get an ab crunch, and you can actually move them back. What about a teapot? Do we get a teapot? Yeah, we do. You can rock back and forth as well, so it's definitely a ball joint there. The hips, you don't get quite 90 degrees, but you get more than you would probably ever need. He's not doing a full split, but he's getting there. Yet again, with the forwards and backwards, you're definitely getting a good run there that you can get. Not getting a full split. But here again, as far as action figures go, it's Ernie. It's not, some kind of mage knight or warrior or something like that. So I'm not really clear on how much mobility you need with this guy. He is a Muppet after all. The knee, you can get just about 90 degrees there. I think it's enough to get what you need out of him, at least personally. These joints are really, really tight, so just be careful. You do get a bit of swivel here based on the ball joint that the hip is on. Or actually, I don't know if that's a ball joint. I think, nope, it is. It's sort of sort of a hybrid joint going on there between the ball joint that's on the torso and the socket that it goes into on the leg. Are these cuffs where the swivel is? No, that's just a sculpt. Okay, so don't get confused here. You'll notice how the pant legs are rolled up here. That's not a cut joint or that's mobile or anything. That's just the sculpt and the way it is. On the ankle, you can get you can circle the feet the full way around, 180 degrees or 360 degrees, I should say. You get a little bit of a tilt up, bit of a tilt down. And yeah, you can get a rocker there so you can have sort of an A stance if you want him to stand that way. So from a articulation standpoint, I think that he comes together well. One thing I will note about him, and this goes for this line completely. Because I have the Bert and because I switched out the head that he came with, and I'm going to do the same to Ernie. One of the things I can tell you is much like a lot of the other figures out there in the collector's market these days, the joints are extremely tight. They're extremely tight, and so one of the things you may need to do, you'll get the head off without a problem, but to get this other head on, you're definitely going to need to heat that up a little bit. So whether you use a hair dryer, which is my personal recommendation, you could also use a heat gun. Just be very, very careful because a heat gun gets a lot hotter than a hair dryer, and you could melt the plastic, so just be careful. But you do want to heat it up for a few seconds, and once you do, it pops right on. But if you don't do that, I can tell you that getting these heads off is not a problem, but getting one back on is a bit of a struggle if you don't heat it up, for sure. Comparison, there he is with Bert, and I think they really, really look good together. For a size comparison, I don't have much sitting here, but I can give you an idea. This is one of the Mythic Legion's horses. I think you could put, oh yeah, see, there we go. We got Ernie astride the centaur here, which is pretty ridiculous and also pretty cool. There we go. Now, just for comparison, also Bert, just a little extra here. He comes with some pretty cool accessories too. He's got his bottle cap collection, which is on has a little frame so it can sit there on the table or something like that. He has this little, what looks like a cigar box that has his paperclip collection. He has this book that's Boring Stories. It's open. This is not hinged. It's just a prop the way it is. And of course he has the letter A that I talked about a little earlier. He also has extra hands. He has an extra head. And he also has one of his favorite pet pigeons. So there you go. So that gives you an idea how both of these are. Let's get into final thoughts. All right, so final thoughts here on this guy. Let's start with the negatives. Probably the biggest glaring negative I saw with this guy while taking a look at him has to do with the rubber ducky. There really isn't a way for him to securely hold the rubber ducky. And I think that is, of all things, why can Ernie not hold the rubber ducky? You can use the hand, and you can, hang on here, let me bend this and show you what I mean. And they actually show this in the box. You can take the hand and put it like that, per se, and you can set the rubber ducky in his hand, sort of. You might be better off with one of the other hands, but I think, no, I'm pretty sure this is the one they show. And if you get it balanced in there, he can't. As you can see, he can sort of hold it. But I think that's sort of a bizarre thing. Why you have 3 sets of hands and none of them can actually hold any of the accessories to any degree. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially when you consider how important this particular accessory is to Ernie. I don't like that very well. The C, I'm surprised it doesn't have a mouth. The A has a mouth and looks a lot more complete, and I'm certain that all these characters, when they were on the show, had mouths and could talk. I actually have taken an online class through Stan Winston from BJ Geyer, who does a lot of puppets and such, and I know that he's demonstrated some of these types of characters, and they do have mouths, so I'm not really sure what happened here with that. NECA, you're going to have to let us know. The other major thing that I mentioned here about this accessory, the sticker, there was certainly a quality assurance issue where the sticker wasn't secured down on mine. That could be just mine and not everybody else's, but I think I'll point it out anyway, just because, you know, when you pay $35 for an action figure, you should not have to worry about things like that. Which brings me to my biggest negative complaint, which is the price point. $35 to me just seems a little high for these guys. I would be much happier at, say, that 25 to 30 range, I think, personally. Not for nothing against the characters. I think that the figures are beautiful and they look great, but I'm not understanding why they're that expensive. One other thing to point out here, and this is more of a nitpick than it is sort of a negative, but I would have preferred that these were matte instead of this semi-gloss finish that they have on them. And I say that because I might be a little bit spoiled. Some time ago, Super 7 put out a series of action figures that were based on Richard Scarry. And one of the things that I loved about those figures was that they were a matte finish in the paint. They looked like they walked right off the page of one of the books. And in this case, for characters that are largely made out of foam and fabric, I think that a matte finish really would have sold that you are looking at the real deal as opposed to an action figure, especially since they've worked really hard, to hide like the knee joints and to incorporate the elbow joint in well, that it's not something your eye initially goes to, that it's sort of hidden. You don't see the neck joint at all. It's very well hidden. That's also the case with Bert. And I think that could have been made better. Having said that, let's talk about the positives. It's painted beautifully. One of the things I love about this is the texture on this thing. Everything from, you can tell this sort of looks like felt on the head. The fabric has texture on it, and the fabric texture is different depending on what piece of fabric you're looking at. The shirt versus the collar and cuffs versus the denim versus the shoes. This beautiful paint job on the shoes, making them look really lived in. I absolutely adore, and I think it looks fantastic. The hair, it really does pass as hair and looks really, really good. Certainly the fact that you have a head sculpt with the open mouth and the closed mouth, I think really worthwhile. All in all, I think these figures are really, really great, and I definitely want the other two. There's two more in this series, and I know they've got more coming out. And despite their price point, I'm all in for this because I love Sesame Street and I love the Muppets, and this is just phenomenal. So it's definitely a strong recommend from me. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and until next time, allies.